This simple mental shift is guaranteed to drastically reduce all of the difficulties in your life. Here's what I'm talking about. We've all been in situations in our life where things are just going wrong all the time. You lose your keys, you drop your phone in the toilet, somebody hacks into your bank account, and just everything's going wrong in your life. We've been there, and you kind of look around and you think like, man, it's feel like the universe is conspiring against me. Am I going crazy, or am I thinking, I'm imagining people like hiding around corners playing tricks on me? Am I on like a candid camera show or something like that? Everything's going wrong. Well, when we go through experiences like that in life, we're forced to kind of take a step back and think like, what's going on here? What's the deal with my life? And the popular wisdom is that, well, your life is hard, but if Oprah and Joel Osteen and Deepak Chopra say, buy my book, listen to my show or message, and I will help you have a good rest of your life. Like, I know it's tough, but the rest of it will be good. Kind of like the first quarter of this movie was awful, but just keep watching because the end is worth it. That's kind of the conventional wisdom. Yeah, it's bad, but it gets better later. The Bible says the exact opposite. And if we can believe that, well, then we'll start to realize that all the difficulties in our life get a lot easier. Look at Ecclesiastes 1:3. By the way, this is the Pastor and the Prodigal. That's the name of this show. Thanks for watching. Okay, so the preacher says, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Over and over again in the book of Ecclesiastes, the preacher says life is vanity. All is vanity. If you look through the book, you can see all these places where the word vanity occurs because that's the thesis of the book. Life is really hard. It's vain. It's vanity. If you look at this word in the Hebrew, it's hevel, and it means breath, or it can also mean idols, right? And for a Jewish person, an idol is like the dumbest thing ever. We worship the true God, they say, and you worship a bobblehead on your dashboard. Pretty dumb, right? It's fleeting. It's worthless. And the Bible, the preacher says, life is vanity. Now notice, this is the opposite of the conventional wisdom. The conventional wisdom says, well, life is difficult, I know that, but this is it. This is the only life you've got, so just listen to me and I'll make the rest of your life good. Here's why that's terrible advice. Because if you believe that and you're like, oh man, the first quarter of my life was awful, but if I listened to Joel Osteen, he said that was just preparing me to have a good rest of my life. Well, that stinks because that means 25% of your life was wasted. 25% of your life was vanity. I don't want to believe that. I don't think you want to believe that, but that's the best that atheists like, or semi-atheists like Oprah and Joel Osteen and Deepak Chopra can do, right? These are people who believe in some vague force out there, but they don't really believe in a tangible, real afterlife. The Bible says the opposite. The Bible says we get two lives, this one and the next one, and this life is preparation for the next one. Now notice, you might not believe that, but notice that if you did, theoretically, if you did believe that, that would mean that all of the difficult things in your life right now are preparing you for something next. Which means that the bad things that have happened in your life are not like, well, that stinks, and let's just try to have a good rest of my life. It means that the bad things in your life could actually serve a purpose. A guy named Viktor Frankl wrote this book called Man's Search for Meaning, and he figured out why certain people survived the Holocaust. And he said the reason certain people survived the Holocaust is because some of them believed that their suffering during the Holocaust was for a reason. There was meaning behind it, and that gave them the strength to continue on. Those that just gave up and died said life is completely pointless, and there's no point in moving on. Let's see what the rest of the Bible has to say. Look at what Jesus has to say. Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Right? Jesus died on the cross, and he says, pick up your instrument of death to follow me. Don't pick up Your Best Life Now by Joel Osteen and try to have a mansion and 3 cars. Don't try to do that. He said, pick up your instrument of death and follow me. Why? For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. If you're trying to have a mansion and 3 cars and that's the point of your life, one day you're going to wake up, you're going to look back at your life and say, man, most of my life was difficult and it was all wasted. Some of my life was really enjoyable and pleasurable, but now it's over and that was it. And you're going to regret your life. But whoever loses his life for my sake, Jesus says, he will find it. How do we make meaning out of our difficult lives? Well, we have to say, I want to lose this life. This life isn't about me. This life is a dress rehearsal for eternity. If you can believe that, you start to gain life. Your life now, all of a sudden, starts to become so much more meaningful, to the point that when you lose your keys and drop your phone in the toilet and somebody hacks into your bank account and you get sick and maybe even get cancer, all of those things can actually be, it's like dodgeball. When the guy says, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. He chucks a wrench at a guy's head. Like life is throwing all these wrenches at your head, and you get smacked in the head with a monkey wrench, and you're like, ow, that hurts. But you pick it up and you say, I can use this to build something. That's what Paul says in 2 Corinthians 4:17. Our momentary light affliction, look, is working out for us. It's these afflictions, these wrenches that are getting thrown at our heads that are terrible, and this difficulty that we're experiencing in life is working out for us an eternal weight of glory. If this life is it, if your best life is now, well, then all the bad things in life are just really unfortunate. And it's like watching a movie that has a terrible beginning. It's got a slow start. Well, the first quarter of the movie was awful, but I'm just going to keep watching because hopefully the end's better. That's worldly wisdom. The biblical wisdom is the beginning of the movie was supposed to be terrible, because it's preparing you for an eternal movie afterwards, eternal movie afterwards in the presence of God, in life the way that it's supposed to be lived. You're going to now begin to experience life without having to get sick and losing stuff and experiencing pain and tears and things like that. And we all intuitively know that. Like, we look at life and like, this seems like a cosmic joke. Like, when I'm young, and time goes by so slowly, why am I dying to get older? And it's like, when I'm young, I just want to be older, and it's taking forever. And then you get older, and all of a sudden time starts going super, super fast, and you want it to slow down, and you want to be younger. You could multiply that example out in so many ways, but life just seems so pointless. It seems like a cosmic joke. And to believe that this life is it's going to make the difficulties in your life so much worse. I want to end with this story that Jesus gives. He says, when you go and sit down at a table and the head guy's at the head of the table, don't go sit next to the head guy at the head of the table. Because if you're expecting a lot, you might get bumped down to the end of the table, and you're going to have the rest of the meal. You're going to be like, wow, I made a fool of myself, and I wish I was up there. But Jesus says, instead, when you go and sit at the foot of the table, and that way you might have a nice meal, or the head guy might call you up to the head of the table. It's the same thing with life. If we look at the Bible and say, I expect this life to be vanity because this life is not it. This isn't my best life. If we expect that, then the tiniest, most infinitesimal pleasures in this life become extraordinary. Your daughter sits across the room, while you're sick in bed, and she looks at you and gives you this little smile, and you say, that's amazing. I expect to be sick and tired and eventually die. But this beautiful human who came through me, who loves me unconditionally, is pleased with me and smiled at me. And it's just like this most amazing experience. But if I think, well, I'm supposed to be healthy all the time, healthy, wealthy, and wise, then it's like, yeah, that's great. You smiled, but I'm in my sick bed, and this is awful. So if we believe this, if we believe what the Bible says about the vanity of life, the difficulties of life don't get erased. Ecclesiastes is in the Bible for a reason. Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me, not pick up your imaginary cross. This isn't just a thought experiment. Life is difficult. There's real crosses. There's real vanity. But if we believe what the Bible says, then all of those difficulties shrink because we start comparing them with what we're supposed to be doing, following Jesus. Thank you for watching.